So if you have any confessions about recording, please let me know. So the core idea of developing this course and developing the understanding what's going on under the war and how it changes current debate, discussion, and understanding of the world in 21st century put us to idea that currently I see a lot of projects and materials which are talking about rethinking gender. So what does it mean to rethink gender? How and why now in 21st century having a long history of intellectual development and having both feminist theory and a lot of insights from different scholars and different scientists, how we come to the need of rethinking gender, war, and peace, why the concepts that were developed before could not fit to our realities, that we have intimate feeling on, and we have understanding that somehow what's coming as discourses and explanation goes a little bit differently that we feel. And thinking about this rethinking idea that we have to apply different part of theories, but current situation from the one hand is a situation that is unique. From the other hand, we have many cases of war and peace and the big literature of rethinking and thinking on how and why it happens, what are its grounds, and what could we do to deal with that. So what are our grounds? And first, I would like to start from idea that in current time, in 21st century, we have a very globalized world from the one hand, but from the other hand, this globalization and globalized world have a great local response, and the concept of Robertson on globalization as a reply of globalization that could deal with national revival, national traditions, and need of people to national response increased, as well as globalization can bring fundamentalization and attempts to keep and rethink what is identity, what is the way of dealing within society and with currently world which is around. And these global local issues are can work with explanation of going on in proceeding of the Russia's war in Ukraine and the other regions. We will talk a little bit more about it further. The first ground that we will build our analysis within the course, and which I want also to outline today, is about decolonial feminist theory, which is developed within the frame of so-called Black feminism and was predominantly rethinking of white and white colonialism and racism as a core issues, the same as intersectional analysis that was developed within the frame of this block of ideas. And also the idea that colonial and decolonial feminist theory is very rare, if never, think about Russia as an imperial colonial force, and it was the other part of the world, and it was not in the focus of rethinking. So what we are going on to do is to switch the focus and to apply this decolonial feminist theory and approach to understanding of what's going on and how it could be explained a little bit differently, taking into account the specific type of development of Russian Empire, then Soviet Union, and then post USSR vectors of transformation and coming within or above the idea of harsh debate about was it colonial or not colonial, or what kind of explanation could be evolve if we understand this and rethink these processes within the frame of the colonial feminist theory. Also, in order to understand processes of rethinking gender in current Ukraine, will work, Ukraine and not only, will work with intersectional analysis. And again, it is about rethinking because intersectional analysis evolved within the frame of legal and human rights movement for in intersecting gender and race. But currently, it was a hard debate if we could work with intersectional analysis if we don't include race as a part of it. And I think that tomorrow, next class is devoted to intersectional analysis and will be absolutely great to think in terms of that, how we understand the processes in our societies. If we have this intersection of gender, age, ethnicity, and if we have race or not in this package, and how it works and how it can show the differences in understanding of inequalities, first of all, and discrimination, which is very important within the frame of this intersectional analysis rethinking. The other parts of rethinking what is gender is about concept of gender order transformation and debate between current developments in gender equality policies that are introduced at the international level within the frame of global sustainable development goals as a goal gender equality, and policies and legislation that is preceded, including Ukraine, during last years quite actively, despite of the war, or maybe because of the war, and Euro integrational intentions of Ukraine, and how it is revival and counter wave of traditionalism and retraditionalization that of gender roles that war brings to cutting our values to the basic survival values. So the next part that is important for me is to talk a little bit about do we have a world value shift, or we come back to clash of civilization because of the war in current modality that we have, because the current war and clash of civilizations is really well explanatory as what is our future that we want and what is the evil we fight with. Okay, so what is very important in understanding and rethinking of gender, war, and peace is understanding of global nature of Russia's war in Ukraine. That understanding that it is not a local conflict, it is not just about local territories or pretense on redistribution of power in in between two countries, it has a global nature. And as we can see in current developments, and as we can, the most important is to understand the primary goal of the aggressor and the structures and institutions that support it. And we can say that, first of all, Russia is the global actor in starting World War II, being the USSR, and participated as Russian Empire in First World War. And as a past dependence, it pretends to global power shift, and it is this. This is not just local issue. And we can see that intervention of Russia in wars around borderland and also in supporting the other autocratic dictatorship and terrorism regimes like Iran, Syria, and current conflicts that was frozen, but they are still very easily become a hot spots of the war, like Nagorno-Karabakh a few days ago, and shows that this issue currently coming slowly to this clash of civilizational part, and it makes a lot of threat and a lot of need in understanding and rethinking of how to deal with that and how to resolve this issue to develop the global sustainable peace. So rethinking also is about not to make a peace in one small localities, which is as a possible variant as a frozen conflict like in Prидnestrovia or in Georgia, but to make, which is very easy to burn out again, like in Nagorno-Karabakh, but to develop the new understanding of what are the sustainable peace markers and how to proceed with them globally within the frame of global actors, and what we can do in this developing of the discourse of this sustainable peace, also within the frame of rethinking of the role of Russia's war in Ukraine and change of types of imaginaries and misnaming, working against Russia's propaganda, and working within the frame of this gender anti-gender movement, which is absolutely a part of the propaganda and changing of understanding of how system is dealing. In this respect, one of the important assignment for social scholars, interdisciplinary, is to rethink imperialist and neo-colonial nature of Russia's war. And to dealing with that, we can make an impact with feminist post-colonial theory, but also it is about sociological theory of constructing reality and developing of real utopia, which is the concept of Eric Olin Wright, where we can see the world with the frame of patterns that are developed and based on current institutional and value grounds of societies. So I would like to refer also in this respect to world values shift that was suggested as a concept by Ron Inglehart based on world value survey. I think sociologists are very well know this concept, and this map that was developed based on people's values worldwide. What is important here, and I can give a reference to this this map and explanation of what are the values and how it works. But what is important here is that war just push societies from secular and self-expression values to survival and re-traditionalization in values. And we can see very clearly that the most developed societies in their welfare and development of security system just come to a very vulnerable position because they work at the level of a new type of understanding of solidarity, which is conviviality, living together with ecological, seeing ecological perspective as important to save the world. And the countries that are dealing with dictatorship and based on survival and traditional values, they don't care about ecology, they don't care about solidarity, and they play on the really ground of economically driven inequalities and religious fundamentalism. So we can see this shift in turn to more religiosity and retraditionalization also in Russia, and we can see it in all the countries that are participating actively in developing infrastructure of the war, which is another important concept. What are the values and theoretical grounds of rethinking within the frame of feminist concept or perspective? I would refer to Cynthia Cockburn, Nora Yuval Davis, Cynthia Lowe. It is that first and very important issue is what we are focusing on. Do we develop infrastructure of war, or we develop infrastructure of peace? And we could see the past 20 years, the infrastructure of war was developed in Russia very heavily with reorienting and re-understanding of Russia's way of transformation as the glorification of the victory in the World War II and increase of inequalities that are in between regions and within society, which is a good ground to show the external war success as a part of glorification and patriarchal values that were reinvented. Which is absolutely natural in dictatorship and authoritarian regimes that typically built in patriarchal model of relationships and retraditionalization of gender roles. So infrastructure of war, coming back to Cynthia Cockburn and Nora Yuval Davis, it is about, first of all, developing social grounds of war, which is about how the war increases inequalities. First of all, global dimension, when countries become really unequal in terms of globalization from the one hand and mutual development of resources supply and market regulations of their relationships in dependence of internal markets to global supplies, and then redistribution of inequalities through power, redistribution of power. And important focus is how to overcome this among and within countries, because social inequalities is the great mitigation of social inequalities is one of the sustainable development goals of the UN, which is after this war in Ukraine seems to be really coming farther from expected possibilities to gain. So we will have a big challenge on how to mitigate inequalities during the war and after the war. Also, how inequalities change gender order during the war and in post-war period, as during the war, retraditionalization of gender roles, like men are defenders and women are family carers, is coming as an answer to the challenges of need for survival and defending the country in the war. And from the other hand, in 21st century, after the years and three waves of feminism and gender equality policies and developments in our countries and in Ukraine in particular, we have changing in patterns of gender roles, and we have this different and variety of choices that both men and women do in terms of reaction of the war. So we have a great increase of women in military and change of patterns of breadwinner and defenders, and this is the new developments that are different to what is explained and explored in the feminist literature, where women are typically presented as victims in the war and men as aggressors. But of course, it goes in parallel, so it's just about biggest variety of patterns, but also it's important about development of agency of women in the war and in defending the country, in resilience, in new type of understanding of cooperation and change of gender roles in terms of mass evacuation and families that are splitted and roles changed. So we have a big differences coming past years comparatively to what was explained even when we had it in literature. Also important issue that comes with the war and within the war infrastructure is gender-based violence, which is a weapon of the war. And also it is a big issue both in society for during and after the war. So also coming to this internal infrastructure of the war that is evolving, we have international dimension of the war and peace order, which is about this global dimension of political economy and polity of war and militarism, and understanding of who is beneficiary and how to increase cost for them, what European Union was done, but it was not at the level of needed level, and it is in balance with increasing line of dimension of countries that support Russia in the war or stay neutral in this war, having been beneficiary from it economically, like China or India, for example. Also, it is economic, political, gender roles, norms change that I talked about. How to deal with current developments in rethinking of core concepts under the war. So we can rethink Russia's war in Ukraine and surrounding countries as a value clash or civilizational clash. We can see that Russia is drawn back to retraditionalization of gender order, clarification of patriarchy and hegemonic masculinity. And also it is consistent within this anti-gender movement and coming with, together with legislation, rhetoric, and it is a source of anti-gender movement in the region, which we see from the research results in 2021 that we conducted with Kyiv Institute of Gender Studies. And the most important issue is very strong connection between patriarchal and retraditionalization revival with historical drawback that is clashing with pan-European attitude to World War II. If in the Europe and in Ukraine, the main message is never again. In Russia, it is we can repeat, and it is absolutely understandable development of people's mindset and vision of glorification of the war that can be understood as a clash in values that is not only the issue of the elite and beneficiaries of the war. Also important sociological data that we can refer is the data of Levada Center conducted in 2023 with a lot of as Gutkov explained, a lot of methodological traps and filters. They tried to understand what is the size of support of the war by Russians in Russia. And it's astonishing that more than 70% now support politics of Putin and war in Ukraine. And the idea that is behind is, yes, that only 40% said that it was right to start the war, and about 40 say that not, it was a wrong idea. But now when Russia is already going so far, it should be because otherwise it's reparation and just losing itself. So this this understanding that it is the predominant public opinion and its predominant support of this policy, it's also very important that it's not only the one dictator or his infrastructure. From the other side, Ukraine, even under the war conditions, as war started in Ukraine in 2014 already, it states for and fights for dignity and European values, pursuing the UN global sustainable development goals, where gender equality is one of the 4 priorities that was defined in Ukraine. And Ukraine did a great progress in gender equality legislation. Starting from Constitution of Ukraine, they states generally equality between men and women. In 2005, it was a special law of Ukraine on equal rights and opportunities for men and women. Ukraine joined Convention of Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination against Women in 1981, so-called CEDAW, and it has already 8 reports on progress of different chapters and parameters in elimination of discrimination against women. Also, Ukraine is an active part in UN Resolution 1325, Women, Peace, Security, which is currently really prioritized in governmental policy. And also, even under the war conditions, Ukrainian Parliament, Verkhovna Rada, ratified so-called Istanbul Convention, which is about elimination of all kind of violence, including domestic violence against women. Last but not least, also during the war, Ministry of Education and Science of Ukraine finally adopted the strategy of gender equality in education in 2022, and also it followed up with implementation of gender equality plans in universities, which is also a very important step in legislation and attempts to deal with the issue from the legal to implementary part. The next idea and the next core concept of rethinking gender under the war is the concept of rethinking gender roles. As I said, we have quite a dangerous degree, and this is the debate that we could have and will have in academia about theorizing and giving the voice to unvoiced. And it's very important to see how high and dangerous is the degree to which Western conceptions on Russia, Georgia, Ukraine, and other countries has been dominated by Russian narratives, and these narratives came from history that was taught in Western academia, and huge grants and programs of Slavic studies that was preoccupied by Russian studies, Russian language. And now currently we have a way to rethinking of this paradigm, which is quite uneasy, and it really have to apply feminist theory principle, nothing about us without us. So we need to rethink of Russia within decolonizing theory, pushing the anti and de-imperialist positioning in understanding of role of Russia in history, in Ukraine, Georgia, other countries around. And also global, it's a seek of global solidarity of feminists in face of the war, because Russia's war empowered patriarchy and retraditionalization and drawback in achievements of gender equality that we have in last after the last wave of feminism. And as Alexandra Matviichuk, the Peace Nobel Prize 2022 from Ukraine says, it's time to assume the responsibility and call for solidarity. Solidarity is a core concept that we have in feminist theory and also in sociology. And we can say that in rethinking peace, another last but not least part of the rethinking of the story is how to mitigate the war infrastructure by developing peace infrastructure. And if we think about development of concept of solidarity, we could say that we passed a long way from modern type of society that understood solidarity like interdependence of individuals and sense of connection, bonds between cultures, bonds of belonging to cultures and shared normative system. Then late modern society, it is more about social cohesion, which is above the internal society identities, but based on diversity and multiculturalism. That is a new way of understanding of solidarity within the frame of social cohesion. concepts where tolerance and understanding the othering are very important concepts. And the last but not least way and wave of rethinking the concept is the concept of conviviality, where emphasis is put on creating and dealing with between people and nature, and based on this, the new ideas of sociality, and basically on postmodern values of self-realization and filling the gap between human activities and their long-term consequences. And this type is really important to have in mind as a pattern of real utopia that is visible and possible to build as based on current best developments of the thought and structures, but from the other hand, the first part is need to change to finish the war and have in mind this idea of what is sustainable peace. So to rethink and to think what is sustainable peace and how to deal with the main aggressor in this respect, we can put more of our attention to decolonial rethinking of the USSR and Russia in terms of imperial and recolonial war of Russia, and to have voices from Ukraine like Maria Mayerchik and Olga Plahotnik, who are rethinking decolonial and colonial theory within the frame of Ukrainian position. Also, we can hear the voices from Kazakhstan. Botakoska Simbekova is a very interesting journalist and scholar who work in this respect. We will have voices within the frame of the course from Georgia, the thinkers and scholars who will work with this issue also from the Georgia point of view. So I think that we will have a good composition of points that we are working together in order to change the agenda also in feminist studies. So it's a big ambition, but without changing the thinking and changing the patterns, we are not able to, and doing the things that we used to do, we never get the new results. So it's a way. I know that I have a little bit over time, but I have some more stuff about changing of gender roles. I talked a little bit about it above, but I want to give some examples of how in Ukrainian context it is different and diverse processes. It's not only one way thing, and how the war and developments of 21st century change our concept of gender roles and have this contradictory trends. From the one hand, we have also idea of national revival, national rebuilding, national identity, which is threatened by the war of Russia and Ukraine. So it is coming back to the sources of national identity, and here is the concept of Bereginya or protectress, that is a symbol of Ukraine, typically given in female figure, and but from the other hand, it's also given with a force to protect and to fight now. So you can see here examples of it's a really interesting book on new imaginaries, from edited by Maria Rubchak, 2015, with analysis of changing of the roles and changing of the images of Ukrainian women, analyzed through media and literature and academic research. And we also can see that we have a rethinking of concept of Beregina as a women warrior, as defender, and also as the one who supports and supplies the front line. It's mass volunteering, like the picture down here, you see the non-governmental organization, which is called Slobozhansky Berегini, who do masking knitting, and it's really important part of resistance and resilience. The other part, you will have a special lecture devoted to this topic on women in army and women during the war. We can say that currently Ukraine become one of the countries with quite a big percentage of women in military forces. Now it is more than 60,000 of 60,500 of women who are in regular military forces, which is 9%. And you can see the data, how these figures changed. And again, within the frame of rethinking gender and roles of women in war, and how to overcome the consequences of the war, we will work a lot with gender-based violence, captivity, and how to work with women after occupation, and so on and so forth. So it's changing a lot the agenda and the type of problems that we have. The other side of the issue is so-called masculinity crisis and crisis experience of men in war. We have, again, within the frame of the course, we will have a special lecture given by Tamara Marcenyuk, who is one of the leading scholars from Ukraine in this topic. And it is, again, from the one hand, it's overcoming the masculinity crisis and changing of gender roles with war, in coming to retraditionalization of the vision of what is the premier gender contract and premier role of men in the war, reference to Cossack past and heroization of men defenders, but also it is attention to women defenders as well. From the other hand, it's inclusivity and understanding of variety of men during the men roles during the war, and also inclusivity of different men in different roles. So it's just a spoiler for you will have a special lecture devoted to that. But I want to say that in rethinking gender in war, it's really important to see how all the concept of crisis of masculinity is overcome through this challenge and need to rearrange and rethink gender contract in a society. Again, we will have another lecture devoted to women war refugees, and finalizing, I would like to say that yeah, it's important issue from two sides. From the one side, important things is gender inequality and gender vulnerability, gender matters in the war, and makes, from the one hand, men and women vulnerable because they have to fight for their basic survival and for their life. From the other hand, gender matters as it is a source of resilience and making big grounds for rethinking of identities, of roles, and of current grounds for activity as an important part for solidarity and conviviality. So I will finish on that, and I'm really looking forward to have a short session of Q&A. If you like, I will stop the